Hey there everybody, Professor Cloud here with another how-to, more of a discussion video pertaining to the game No Man's Sky. In this video we're going to do two things. We're going to do a base tour of the one that I have just finished putting together in my latest playthrough of No Man's Sky. And we're going to talk about it because it ties right directly into a discussion around farming. And when I talk about farming, I mean legitimate planting crops, harvesting those crops, and doing something with those crops. For many of you, if you've ever played No Man's Sky before and have gotten to the point of warp travel and met up with the anomaly, then you should have also been given access to the Expand a Base secondary mission set. In that mission set, you start off with a construction engineer or overseer, I think he's called, but he then very immediately gives you a task that then gives you access to an agriculture engineer. And that agriculture engineer, over a set of many steps, I don't remember exactly how many, will introduce you to the recipes for numerous different harvestable products. Now, every single planet has one indigenous to it, but to find all of them, you would have to go to many, many planets and many, many systems. With the agriculture engineer, he introduces you to almost all of them. He leaves out 3. Now, one of them is considered contraband and illegal. The other 2 are both very highly sought after and are worth harvesting and selling all on their own. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 4 different ones that he leaves off. He, she, you get the idea. So what I want to do is I want to do a quick walkthrough of my base. And I call my base the Moisture Farm, after Moisture Farms from Tatooine in Star Wars. And my base is primarily nothing but biodomes, where I have every single one of those harvestable plants deployed in my biodomes. So, let's go take a quick look by opening up the base computer and seeing a picture of this from above. Okay, so there is the base itself. And as you can see, there are a lot of biodomes. There are a total of 9. And I could have very easily gone to, say, 12 or 13. What I mean by that is only 6 of them, I believe, have been dedicated to a single crop. Whereas I believe it's 3 of them that are split between 2 different crops. Most of the crops, if you try and sell them by themselves, are not going to get you a lot of revenue. But as I mentioned, there are 3 that will generate a large revenue just by harvesting them by themselves. However, where you get the advantage of farming is when you combine 2 crops together to create something that is tremendously more valuable. So let's go through the process of harvesting everything that I have, and then we'll take a look at how much money I can make off of the combination of the really expensive harvestable items and the items that can be combined together to create craftables that are worth a lot. And by the way, I am very happy with what I have done with my base. It was exactly what I set out to do. I would potentially like to add on to it so that I do have a single biodome for every single crop. But as you can see here, with a biodome, you can plant as many as 16 of each one. And you can easily look right up at the screen and harvest all of them at one time. And then they will go back through their growing process. One of the things that the agriculture engineer will teach you is how to plant a crop using a, and I want to make sure I give it the right name, a hydroponic tray. And you can absolutely put hydroponic trays inside of base building rooms and do that instead. However, a single circular room like I'm having here, or a single cylindrical room or a single square room can only support 8 total hydroponic trays. In addition, each hydroponic tray adds on an additional power requirement onto that room. And that power requirement is actually more than the power requirement of a single biodome room. Plus, you get double the amount of harvestable materials. So I highly recommend the biodome path. Now, biodomes do require a lot of glass. 5 pieces of glass, if I remember correctly. 5 pieces of glass and 25 magnetized ferrite. So they're not cheap. But in my opinion, over the long run, they are 100% worth it. Alright, so we've just harvested solar vines. Now, frost crystals. This room is split between Facium and Sac Venom. Sac Venom is actually one of the items that you can sell for a decent amount. This is your star bulbs, which this planet, it happens to be indigenous on this planet, so it was very easy for me to do that one first. In here, we've got fungal wart and cactus flesh. And then up here is our first really good, solid item that I'm sure most of you are aware of, Gravitino Balls. And I have 16 of them here in this one room. So that's 16 Gravitino Balls I'm going to be able to sell. So even by themselves, that in itself is enough. Then we've got, up here, we've got albumin pearls. And again, 16 of those. And then lastly down here, we've got just 2 more items, Mordite and Gamma Weed. And then down here is our illegal item, Nip Nips. These are a little bit harder to... Between Nip Nips and Gravitino hosts, the 2 of them are probably the hardest to actually plant. Gravitino hosts require 25 chromatic metal, 120 silver, and 25 magnetized ferrite for each plant. So that's a little expensive, especially with respect to chromatic metal, considering, as I'm sure everyone knows, in early and mid-game, copper can be hard to find, copper can be hard to mine and find good-sized veins of. Silver is even harder to find, although you can farm it with your ship out in asteroid fields. And then, of course, magnetized ferrite is the third form of ferrite dust. So, they're not exactly cheap, but once you get them, they absolutely, they have certainly paid for themselves, 10 times over for me by now. The Nip Nips, they're not hard to plant. You only need 20 Facium to go along with them, but you need a single Nip Nip bud. Nip Nip buds are very hard to find because they're illegal. The only place I've actually found them as part of like a scavenge or a scrap or anything along those lines is in derelict freighter missions. Derelict freighter missions are 5 mil apiece. I have been able to get as many as 2 Nip Nip buds for each derelict freighter mission that I've done. But every once in a while you will find a single one someplace else. They are very hard to find. The great thing is once you plant the first 2, they will harvest and create more Nip Nip buds for you, making it easier and just a little bit of a longer process to fill out your entire biodome. Okay, so let me go ahead and harvest all of this. And let's start by taking a look at how much we're going to make just from the valuable harvest. So we go here to my terminal, and in this system, my 16 albumin pearl will get me 160k. Not a huge return, but early game, mid game, that's a nice chunk of change. So we sell all of those. We then scroll down to the sac venoms. I only have 6 of the sac venoms. So when I mentioned I'd like to expand and build another biodome, this is for why. I'd like to have a separate biodome just for the sac venoms. 6 of them, 350k. And then the Gravitino Balls, almost 600K. And of course, these numbers are going to fluctuate based off of the system. Sometimes, like, I'm getting a return of negative 7% right now. I've seen as much as plus 5%. It fluctuates up and down. But still, 600K. So I have just gotten over 1 million credits. Sorry, 1 million units just from those 3 harvests alone. That in itself should give you enough reason to do a farm, even if you only focus on those 3 crops. Now, next, let's take a look at the items. Oh, hold on a minute. Sorry, forgot one. Nip Nips. 15 Nip Nip buds. I've got 700K. So we're now over 1.5 million between 4 different harvests. And they weren't even full harvests for all of them. So, focusing on farming is a smart thing to do, especially in early and mid-game. Alright, next. Let's take a look at what we can combine together. The first thing is, we have a circuit board here. You will learn about the circuit board through, I believe it's your construction engineer, if I remember correctly. He will actually ask for one. That will then give you the recipes for the 2 items required, the heat capacitor and the polyfiber. The circuit board will sell for 900K. There's the polyfiber, cactus flesh and star bulb. There's the heat capacitor, frost crystal and selenium. So we create one of each. And then we can absolutely create a circuit board. Now, here's the great thing. I can create at least one more of each. So let's do that. Just with what I've harvested. But I cannot create 3 of each. So let's go ahead and create 2 circuit boards. $1.8 million from what I have harvested with the circuit boards. Now, there are some additional things here. If we look at lubricants are made up of Phaceum and Gamma Root. So I can create one of those. That's another 110K. And if you plan out your harvest, you can actually put some away into storage and then create additional items at certain periods of time to increase your revenue. Trying to make sure that I'm not missing any other components that could be created. You can also create unstable gels using cactus flesh, although they're only worth about 50K each. But that's something else you could potentially do. And then if you could get enough fungal mold and mordite, you could create an acid. The acid combined with unstable gel will create a liquid explosive, and that's now another 800K. So we're now in the range of 3.5 to 4 million units with one single harvest. So if someone has ever told you that farming in No Man's Sky isn't worth the time and the effort, I seriously beg to differ. And you don't have to do anything special. Just make sure that you follow along with the Expand a Base secondary mission set and really pay attention to the agriculture engineer. He will take you through everything that you need to do. Now, you're going to have to do some exploring to find the planets to get the initial seeds, to get the initial resources that you will need to plant each of the individual crops. But once you have them planted, they will create enough on their own for you to continue to add to your overall crop. As you can see, I've spent a nice amount of time here building out a great farm, and I'm getting a nice return on it. So, hopefully this has been of value to you. Hopefully it's been informational. And as per usual, if in fact you have enjoyed the content, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. Please make sure to hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.